especially God. Yet also like a trauma victim, our problems are larger than we can handle by ourselves. The idols, things that we turn to in our need, we turn to in our fear and pain, simply cannot fill the God-shaped void in our hearts. This brings me to the real reason I believe we worry. It's a combination of both the theological and the psychological that we have just discussed. The real reason we worry is because we're forgetful people who seek the safe yet idolatrous answers to our felt need. We're just like the Israelites in the Old Testament. We see God do amazing things in our lives, our own Red Sea experience, and yet we turn around to build our own golden calf because God's timing is not our timing. As the Israelites, we think that God has to act at the moment that we say and in the way that we say. We so easily forget God's faithfulness. We forget that Jesus was forsaken on the cross so that we wouldn't have to be forsaken eternally. Now, it's true that our idols aren't actually physical representations of animals these days. But we still have idols. Things we turn to keep us safe. Your idol might be that of popularity. You get your value from your connections. The legitimate need for love and belonging that can only truly be filled by God, you try to fill with the fickle praise of your peers. Another idol candidate is money. You might trust it for your security, or maybe for your happiness. You think, if only I had enough money, I'd have everything I wanted and I'd be happy. Maybe your idol is the idol of your own intelligence and academic achievement. You get your sense of worth from getting perfect scores in class. Or maybe you think, surely if I do well in school, my parents will love and accept me then. Another possibility is that your idol might simply be yourself. You think that you're all you need to tackle any challenge or task crossing your path. This is actually a favorite idol for those of us who have gone through some sort of trauma. We feel like we have to do it for ourselves or our needs won't be met. Whatever your idol is, our worries and anxieties betray it. Our idols provide us with no lasting peace. I think we worry and are anxious because deep down inside of us we realize our idol isn't up to the task. In fact, sometimes we worry because God has just exposed just how powerless our idol really is. As a recovering grade junkie myself, I know how that is. I remember a time in high school when I was doing really well academically. I think all my classes I was scoring either probably a 97 or above in all my classes. Yet I remember even that time where I thought surely I'd be happy and thrilled because I was doing so well. I was actually kind of inside hollow and miserable. And I realized that the reason I was hollow and miserable is that I felt distant from God in all of this. What do we do then when our anxieties and worries expose our idols? How are we to get out of them? Clearly, we cannot simply will our way out of it. We don't want to repeat the mistake of making ourselves idols. Thankfully, the keys to our deliverance can be found in this morning's passage. Verse 6 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving present your requests to God." We spent a lot of energy this morning seeing the prohibition of do not be anxious. Let's start to focus on the gospel resources that God gives us in this to actually do this. Notice first that by prayer and petition we are to present our requests to God. The first and most important step to our deliverance from our anxiety is a turning to God. Instead of looking to our idols, we are to turn to God with prayers and petitions. Hebrews reinforces this idea by reminding us of our tremendous heavenly access and support. Hebrews 4:14 through 16 says, "Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has gone through the heavens, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold firm to the faith we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, But we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet was without sin. This is important, this verse, so listen carefully. Let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. It's because of what Christ has done on our behalf that we have this incredible access. And it's up to us to approach that throne of grace with confidence. Now for some practical advice. It's important that we do this approach, this turning physically, whether it means speaking it out or writing it out. Don't get me wrong, I think it's fine to pray to God with your thoughts. I think that's a good practice. But I still think it's practically helpful to do something physically. My support for this actually is a contextual one. Oftentimes we forget that the Bible was written in an oral culture. So what that meant was, for example, the really personal and emotional Psalms would actually be read aloud to the community. So when the Apostle Paul exhorts us by prayer and petition to present a request to God, it would have been understood by his audience that he was encouraging them to speak out such things. Psychologically, this is an important point because it helps us to engage our whole body in turning our worries and anxieties over to God. The second important key to notice in Philippians 4:6 is that all this is supposed to be done with thanksgiving. This is actually the antidote to our forgetfulness. We are to be thankful to God. As a side note, earlier in the passage, actually in verse 4, it has told us that we should be rejoicing in the Lord always. I'll say again, rejoice. So we should have been rejoicing to begin with. Now back to verse 6. It's important for us to realize that Paul isn't saying we are to feel thankful. Rather, we are to present our requests with thanksgiving. This is a very important distinction to note. We might not feel particularly thankful to God when we just got cut or demoted from the varsity team, or say when we just found out a parent has cancer. We might feel abandoned by God in those circumstances, and it felt like He's just told us that we have to fend for ourselves against the horrific challenges before us. It can be really scary. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It can be very scary. Yet, even then, maybe even especially then, it's vital that we overcome our strong impulse to turn to our favorite idol in that moment of fear. We need to fight against these anxieties using the tools God's given us. We need to turn over our anxieties to Him with thanksgiving. The Psalms once again contain excellent examples of this. Consider Psalm 13, a psalm written by David. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and every day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer, O Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death. My enemy will say, I have overcome him. My foe will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord, for He has been good to me. Few, if any of us, have been in the same shoes as King David. A man anointed by God as a young man